closer look at using the form editor and viewer inside of Primo. So here we are in this sample divorce with children case for Penny, and we've loaded these forms automatically here. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get these forms to autofill, and this is not difficult, thankfully. All you need to do is click on, let's say, the petitioner role here, and choose who's supposed to fill that role. Now, right now we have one option, and that option is Penny, because this is her case. We obviously know she's a part of it. But what if I need somebody else loaded in the system, like Leonard Hofstadter, for example? Here's what you do. You're going to go backwards to the contact page for Penny. You're going to go to Related Contacts tab, and we're going to search. Well, let's link an existing contact, because I know Leonard is already in the system. So let's just find him. There we go. And let's choose a relationship, spouse, for now. And we'll click link. Now that we've linked Leonard to Penny, we can go back to Penny's case, to her forms, and we can choose who's supposed to fill these roles, and you'll see that Leonard now appears there. So if you ever need someone to fill a role as a petitioner, a beneficiary, a respondent, or whatever the role may be on your particular form, it's handled in the Related Contacts tab at the Primary Contacts contact page. So let's pick Leonard. He's going to be the petitioner in this one. Now, why is this warning going to pop up? It's going to pop up because you need to read it. Every time you change the role for someone in a form, it's going to autofill it with the new person's information. So as I'm going to show you, when we go and view the form, there's some fields that show up in green. I'm just going to say yes here because we know that's going to happen. It's fine. And let's do the same for Penny as the respondent. Yes, we want to autofill the form. Okay, let's go into the form. You will see that a number of these fields are in green. Okay? Now, any field that's in green, this was for the attorney, for example, but this is the petitioner and this is the respondent. If I say actually Penny's last name is Smith, and I navigate away, it's going to auto-save that, but it's only going to save it to the form itself. It's not going to save it to her case or to any other forms, right? So if I log out of that form viewer and I go enter again, it's still there. But what happens if I switch the role to none, and then I switch the role back to Penny? Her last name was Smith is not going to be there, because what it's doing is it's pulling the data from the database to fill this field. And we've not corrected it in the database. We've only corrected it in the form. To correct it in the database, go to her contact page and change it there. But that's the point. That's why you're going to get those warnings when you go to re-autofill a page, because it's going to change stuff. And if you haven't changed it in the database, it doesn't know to do anything differently. All right, so let's do that. We'll put that back to Penny again. Very quick to click right through that. All right, now let's go back into that form because there was some information missing, right? We have the attorney. His information's in these fields. We're missing the court information. And we do have the petitioner and the respondent. And we're also missing the case number. So where do we input that information? Let me show you. Inside the case page, go to the Case Details tab. And you can type in your number for the case. And we'll just make up one here. Let's say the filing date was then. Here you also have the option of just recording who's the plaintiff, who's the defendant, who's the plaintiff's attorney, who's the defendant's attorney, who's the prosecutor if this is a criminal case, who's the friend of the court if this is a family case, who's the filing attorney, which court are we in? We'll call it the 86th. Which judge are we dealing with? Let's say it's Judge Judy Stamper. And is there a primary paralegal or secondary paralegal assigned to this case? We don't have any in the system here, so there's just those are none. You click Save once you've selected those. Now, we can go back to the form, and I'll show you that this information is now going to fill. So let's go to the form. But before we go in, we need to click Autofill. because nothing's going to autofill unless we tell it to. And we didn't tell it to, so there's no court information there now. Let's tell it to autofill by clicking the autofill button. Again, you're going to get this warning because you got to be careful with how you use autofill because you're rewriting stuff potentially. So now let's navigate into the form. And you'll see all the court information populated and the court case number, everything. All right. So now you don't have to do that for every form. You do it once as the case details. And now if I go to, let's see, petitioner is going to be Leonard. Yes. Respondent's going to be Penny. Got it. Yes. Now let's open that form. And you'll see that now we have all the court information in there because we set it at the case level. So any form you generate in here, it's going to read that as the court information. All right, so now that we've looked at that, we've dealt with the forms. Let's go back to the case details because we were choosing who's the defendant's attorney, what friend of the court are we dealing with, who's the judge, where does all that information come from? It comes from a little bit over to the left here under the custom rules menu item. And here is where you can enter the courts that you frequently practice in. You can enter the judges that you frequently deal with. You can enter other attorneys that you deal with. Maybe you're consistently going up against some of the same opposing counsel, or if there's a prosecutor and you do a lot of criminal cases, or if you're dealing with a friend of the court agency, or even any interpreters who you might be using. You can add all of those people here, and it adds them to your whole practice. So when you go to your case details page, you can add, well, let's just run through it. Let's add a friend of the court here, and we'll call it Oakland County friend of the court, and let's just add that. All right, so we have an Oakland County one now as well. Let's go back to our case. And we'll go to case details. You'll see that the friend of the court, you can now choose from either of those. Okay. So that's how you're going to be autofilling your forms. And remember, any information that you want to be automatically filled is going to be entered in the contacts page for either of these contacts. Now let's go over one more item of business here. Let's say you're filling out your form and, this address is just super long. Or for some reason, whatever you have to put in a field it's not going to fit there anymore. You can change the font size. Now, right now, you're limited to changing the font for every field on the page. So you would just come here and select a different font size. And you'll see that. We'll set that. And you'll see it reflected once you download the form. So let's download that form. And now let's open that form. And you'll see that now we've got a teeny tiny font and it fits all those words in there. Of course, it applies it to every field on the page, but that's okay. At least it's there. Let's close that. When using the form viewer, the other thing we could point out is you can go from page to page like that. When you're typing information into a field and you go to the next field, it auto saves it. You saw it flash green. That's because it was indicating to you that it saved the information. And so when you're done editing a form, all you do is click to log out of it. And that's how easy it is to do autofill.